died. Good evening, everyone. It's our start of a session with Gospel of Mark, chapter 2, and we want to share our thoughts and have a dialogue about the upcoming Sabbath school lesson, and maybe also carry on questions that we didn't touch up last lesson. So I will start sharing my screen. Okay. What I'm sharing with you. Love, can you help me to just do the share screen? Full screen sharing. Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to, yeah.
Yeah. Now I hope you see my text. Can you see that?
Yes, I can see that.
Yeah. So where we are now, we are in a Bible Hub, and this is the free app, and I'm sure some of you know that.
Yes,
It's
Bible Hub, I know that.
yeah, it's an easy version for any Bible learners and not necessarily theology students, but it's a lovely app that helps you to compare the text, see the original language, and it's with the parallel chapters. But now I am interlinear Greek version that you can follow in English with me, and I will comment on some of the Greek words because every translation, as you understand, it's the interpretation. So
Okay.
so Tevi joining us, and then good evening, Tevi. Nice to have you aboard, and we are just starting reading Mark. We have Mark full second chapter and a little bit beginning and middle part of chapter 3. But we are not in rush, and we want to read first verses. Mark chapter 2 verse 1, and you interlinear app Bible Hub. I'm reading from verse 1. And he entered again into Capernaum after a few days. That doesn't say few days, just days. And was heard that he is in a house. So this is oiko, in a house. So if we don't have articles there before in Greek, it means the definite article. So we consider he came into the house, particular house he stayed, where he moved in, and we consider this as a Peter's house, but we're not sure unless, is any other house. But what we know is a Peter's house so far. Yeah. So you can mute yourself so the noises do not disturb us. And let me show you, how did it see? Let me show you Capernaum. Can you see the screen? Yeah. So this is a parking. We go inside. Yeah, thank you. We're going inside, and this is the Peter's house. Yeah. Big rectangular structure nowadays belong to Frankincense Church, and there's the active, very, very vivid, lovely church that lives there and comes together every Sunday. But underneath, because this is like a raised structure, underneath the Peter's house. So let me jump straight into the, after I will show you straight here. Look, we are now under this rectangular church. And here underneath you can see preserved memories of the Peter's house. In the 4th century was built as a church just over the Peter's house, just to preserve memory, because everyone not only in Galilee but also in Jerusalem and over Jordan knew that place. Everything was crowded around here. So let me show you another one. So this is the entrance, but under you can see that this is the part of the structure. It's not a huge, think about 4 meters to 4 meters, something like that. And you can see the basalt rock construction of the Peter's house underneath. So the whole Capernaum was built out of basalt, very hardy and durable rocks, looked black. And then, so look here, this is the glass window into the Peter's house. And then this is the from the top view. So, you know, when you stay there and you think of this roof, you're basically on the same level as the roof was undone. So, and you can't help yourself thinking. You can see the foot of my husband taking picture. So you can't help yourself but read Mark chapter 2, unroofing the house. And I will ask you a question, and the question might be, but you're welcome to ask anything, comment, you know, it's not a lecture or anything. You know, I'm just talking and you might stop me and just comment or ask. From our type of imagination, we always think that should be kind of maybe wooden beams, and what else? Clay, leafy mats, kind of clayish type, you know, when they would break the roof. Don't we think like that? Yeah, so, but you know what? Yeah, but it isn't. You know why? Because about other towns and other areas, it might be true, but the Capernaum, can you see? It's a very rocky place that used to be during the flood time, very lava-based rocks, you know. So in Capernaum and surround area, there's no wood whatsoever. There's like, you know, just a bushy type of, even oaks kind of bushy look. So there's no ways to find the normal wooden beams unless it's imported. But if it's imported, it means very expensive. So it might be true for other towns, but as you can see here, you see those beams. You see that? This is the house beams. You see there's the blocks. You know, that is the roof. There's no wood there, you know, and you won't find. You see there's basically the palm trees, and there's a little bit of this, it's not a cedar, but this type of trees we have in the area, and the rest is bushy. This doesn't give you any type of planks, you know, so the only planks you can put over, and it's all proven, and you know, it's the wooden, this type of basalt, the same rocky, you know, they cost almost nothing. And you know, how would you unroof the house? So let me just go back into the text, so we're not just imagine something. So look here. So they now just pause here and let's see what. And gathered many, so there was no more space or ability to, you know, so horein, it means no freedom, no, you know, completely packed up, not even by the door, towards the door. But I already explained it on a Sabbath school when I did the presentation. Houses, you see that houses, this is the synagogue, but it's not a Jesus time, this one built, and so built on a foundation of Jesus synagogue, because this is the limestone, and it's also imported, built in the 4th century, but it built on top of Jesus synagogue, and it's enormous, it's beautiful. Let me show you. And you can see also the town is small, 1,500 people. We have in suburbs and areas 25, in the Cape Town suburbs and suburbs 25, let's say Plumstead 25,000 and Strand, I think, about 10. So this is the beautiful synagogue, and when you come in and just space yourself and you think where Jesus might be standing and preaching, you get the goosebumps. And you can see how much the locals would pay in order to build their synagogue, because it's not sponsored but anyway, it's the locals building themselves. There that Jesus would be standing, where the bima would be and the Torah would be read. So imagine the entire town can come here, very easily fit in. And with the idea that the surrounded towns would also come for Sabbath worship in the same area. So this is one of the synagogues that perfectly preserved, and it's a wonder that we have Jesustown Synagogue. And we will not say Jesus touched this stones that Jesus touched. It's somewhere 2 meters underneath, but this is the place where he would preach, or at least was allowed at the beginning. We don't know what happened at the end of his ministry. Was he out in the synagogue, or he was already on the way to Jerusalem, as Mark portrays us. So now you have a picture, and the main thing what I wanted to tell you. So it's definitely not wooden beams to dig out, but would it be basalt rocks, or beams. So we so not even at toward the door, and houses are just picked up like in Cairo, as anyone can imagine how people live in Cairo, house on house and top on top, a roof on top of it. That's there's no space for the yard or front door space. They are just wall to wall. So, and then it says, and he was speaking. Yeah.
So can I ask a question? So just a quick
Yes,
question.
yes,
How does,
please.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know how old the picture is, probably, in excess of 2,000 years. How do we know that that was Peter's house, or how do they determine that that particular dwelling was?
It's a good question, Jeremy. Good question. Yes. There's in archaeology is always it's always a question how precise we can say it was here or it wasn't there. First of all, we rely on a tradition that been oral tradition preserved from generation to generation. It's very strong in that in the area of Muslim, let's say Muslim world or Christian world, Arab world. And if not Christians, then an Arabic would be preserved in linguistic terms, that say Mount Carmel, we have Shiloh, we have other places that something holds as a memory. So in this case, we have we have tradition of the 4th century. Out of the entire town, that house is marked as the house church. It served as a house church, and then they built it that octangular. It became a house church. And they don't build just anywhere, they build somewhere where they want to say it is that the place has memory. That's what the land has the memory. And this is very strong among archaeologists and among researchers when they say the land does remember. And that's what we can rely on. Jeremy, I hope you got some ideas what I mean, because everywhere would you go, it would be in the linguistic or 1st century tradition, Christian tradition that passed from generation to generation. It's like, passing the rules and memories from, from great father to grandchildren.
Okay, how about you? Thank you.
Yeah, and then he's speaking, in many translations said he preached, but they he's elalei. Laleo, it's to say. He was speaking them the word, the word. And for those who understand Greek, it's a beautiful play, because remember, when John starts his gospel, he says, "Enarhe ein ho logos," and this is the logos. The logos is the word, you know. And he could say, he could use another word, you know, in Greek that says in the beginning was the word. Let's say lalas, you know. It's kind of speaking. It's like this speech. How you call it? A speech, or you know, like proceed wording. But he says the word himself, logos, speaks the logos. This is very, very beautiful for me to play. I hope you will also love this type of plays. You know, you don't see it if you don't read the language. So, and they came, yeah. They came bringing. They doesn't say they. We will hear who is they. They came bringing to him paralytic, and the same in Greek, paralytikon, the one who is paralyzed, or well, type of paralysis, you know, on non-ability, carried or by four. So it doesn't say for ladies or for who is for, but just for. And you know, we do not talk about too much about it, you know, but what is for in your association in the Bible? Any four? Just give me any number 4 in the Bible you remember.
Anything that's got to do with 4, is that what you're...
Yeah, anything has to do with 4.
The 4 Gospels.
Sorry,
yeah, 4
4?
4
in the whole
Gospels.
Yes,
Bible.
good. 4 Gospels, you know, I didn't think of that. 4, especially from Revelation. Do you remember any images from Revelation that has number 4?
Well, the city 4 square.
Oh, good, very good. We have squares, and squares always by 4. Yeah, not rectangular, not, you know, but yeah, very good. And normally cube, you know, remember the Jerusalem is the cubical town. Yeah, anything else 4? It's 4 angels holding the 4 wings. Remember, 4 winds of the earth. Yeah, and normally in Bible 4, it's the universal human number. It's like if you think of earthly humanity as a whole, you just give a 4. And when Adam was created, he you know, if you would talk a century now, you know, and him 4 is associated with Adam because he is a man who represents the entire humanity. So now coming interesting to this association, then Mark says he was carried by 4. You know, he brought that association with. You know, you can ask anything, but I'm just giving you little, you know, little hooks that you can develop your thoughts and ideas. Okay, let's go further. And not be able to come near, to get through, let's say, yeah, because that means to come through. And understandable why not to come through. You can imagine the entire area far before that quarters. There's no streets, you know, just houses, like a block of houses glued to each other, come through to him on account of the crowd. And a crowd in this sense of loss is they can use the crowd like a noble people, but it's more common people or mob. You know, when Jesus was caught in Gethsemane, they used the word crowd, oklon. You know, there's a mob came. They removed the roof. Yeah, this is the word apistegason. It's just uncover. They uncover the roof. So what you basically do, you just lift up the beam, you know, and there might be a mat or something just to keep the rain from between the beams, you know, but that basalt beam might be able to, they might be able to probably move it for them, get up the stairs on the side and where he was and dig in, they digged in, they let the mat, krabaton, it's the mat or mattress on which the paralytic was lying. So you know, due to the fact that Jesus then would tell him that he has to pick up his mat, we understand it's not like a big deal way that they would, you know, I don't know, they had to carry it and they didn't plan it. For sure, they didn't plan it to undo the roof. But you know, in a spare of the moment, understanding they're not carrying the sick friend back all the way. I don't know how far they carried him to. Not easy job, but they decided they go in desperation for that measures. Yeah, what do you think? Any thoughts so far? It's good to have this visual aids. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the mats, you know, not mats, MATS.
Yeah.
You know, it's quite a common thing in the East, so it's likely that it could be a mat. And then I would also imagine that if they were going to lower it down, to be easy to tie onto the corners of this mat and lower it. The mat would probably be, you know, large enough to accommodate the person.
Yeah.
But I mean, mats are very, even today, I mean, we know all these beautiful rugs and things that are brought over
Yeah,
from.
Wadi. Yeah, thank you very much. I was thinking how it would be done, you know, I didn't come to any idea. Yeah, definitely something like that, you know, and I'm sure that is not a big distraction because removing the basalt beam would be easily to move it back again, except, you know, if there's anything, you know, leafy in between, you know, or mat in between the but I'm sure it's not a big destruction of the house, not like in our houses, you know, to dig through the
Sure.
yeah. Let's read further. If you have any comment or question or anything pops up in your mind, just, you know, it's just 3, 4 of us, just talk because this is your time to talk. And having seen Jesus, the face of them. So that Jesus says face, you know, pistina, it's a faithfulness, right? So it's not face as we do it in Greek mentality, face, something abstract, something not visible. In this case, pistos is the faithfulness. Yeah, so it's the faithfulness of to.
Sorry, Elena. So is
Yeah.
that saying seeing their faith in action? So that's
Yeah, Octavia.
Yeah.
And faith in action, yeah, and we long for that because we wish to, you know, not only send the prayer requests, not only say you know, think of you, but also say, listen, let's do something actively about it. So they do not run to Jesus sending, you know, please pray, but they do, and they actually do the damage in order to help the friend. So, and yeah, and not like any other ones who would accuse him of being guilty of his own state, you know, like a self-affliction disease, which is the common opinion of those days. But they're not, you know, in whatever's fault, and maybe not his fault, but his opinion of the time, unless, you know, but they have, they trust this friend, and they care for him, and they go extra mile for him. Huh? Yeah, so I'm not going into the sermon now. Yeah, let's just read further. He says to the paralytic, son, and this is the word, you know, they translate son, but this is actually Greek word, not a son. It's a child, right? So he says child, and you talk technos, and you know, we have two words, paidios, for the child who is under 12 before he went into bar mitzvah, which is when you enter the adult responsibility in the community. You become part of the member of the synagogue, and you can read out, you know, in front, when you can take responsibility for your certain actions. You know, it's a part of it's a big step up. It's like, you know, in our society, what is it, 21? Yeah. So Jesus went to Jerusalem when he had to do bar mitzvah. So before that, he's paidion, the little child, but during all childhood, and another word that can be applicable as under 12, and after, like all time, you know, even the adult child. And if you parent, you would say, teknon, my child, my son, doesn't matter if the girl or the boy. So, and very often rabbis and the teachers, you know, would call the disciples teknos, as the children, you know. The children are the ones who need to be educated, and the ones who need the care. And and Jesus, interesting, often talks to his disciples, calling them children, like my sons and daughters. But in Gospel of John, he calls them little children, the ones who are under 12, paidios. This is very, 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 very endearing. Very, you know, it's like mother or father showing tenderness to your children, and calling it with endearing terms, or giving a, you know, love names. And I'm sure in your community, Octavia, probably known how you would change the name and give a family nickname. So that's what Jesus does. And he says, son. This is beautiful, because in this word, I see future for this person, just because of this word. I don't know, future for his you know, like, not only he calls him child, child, are forgiven to you the sins. And this is forgiven in the present continuous. What it means at the moment, right now, sins are being forgiven. You know, it's like, imagine something happening at the moment, like your, let's say, I don't know what to give you example. Let's say somebody is just helping you out when you're in a big trouble, and you're on the phone, and you need to be sorted out. So that's what, you know, what happened. He says that your sins are being forgiven at the moment. So let's move. Where now some of the scribes, grammatios, gramma, as you understand, is a letter. And the scribes is the one who are educated. The ones who can write, the common people and mob can't write. You know, they can't read. Reading in Hebrew it's not easy. You might be able to read, even if you learn to read, you will be able to read, but you will not be able to write. Because the writing, it's not like in English, you in school you learn to read and write. Writing is high school. Yeah. So but they can write and read because they memorize everything. So they are studying word by word Torah. Basically, they would requirements. They would know Torah, which is I would not tell you now, otherwise I will lie. 10,000 words something. But in memory, they would carry it. This is the trait of teaching in ancient time. You learn by heart, and you train your memory from age of 3. You have to memorize, and this is normal, you know, because you don't have access to the books, and you can't open page where you want to. You just have to scroll in your memory. So they are the ones who can write. They can, you know, they can write. They can read, but they also have memories of Torah perfectly. And they compare the price, the prices, the words, you know, in your memory. And this is something that we don't have in society. I don't think, you know, in the modern countries anything similar to that, because to recall from the memory passages and chapters, like, you know, like, yeah, you have to have a special skills. So anyway, they are professors, and they're sitting around. And they definitely, if they're sitting around, they belong to this place, to Capernaum. It's very rich and very multifaceted town. So they're sitting around and they're reasoning. It says dialogue gizomei. So you can hear the word dialogue. So they have a dialogue in their minds. In their cardias is the heart. Cardiology, you know the word. Cardias, hearts. And their dialogue in their hearts. Why this, it doesn't say men, why this one speak like that? He blasphemes. Who is able, do not who has the power, do not dynamis, dynamite, dynamite, how do you say in English? Dynamite.
Denatai.
Yeah, something explodes. So he says, who has the power to forgive sins if not alone God? And this is the commandment that they killed him at the end. Remember the blasphemy when the high priest tore his clothing? And what is the commandment? Number what? Number 5? No. Number 4? No. Number 1? No. Between 2 and 3, which one?
Two.
Huh? Third one.
Is it not true?
And number 2, you're right, Octavia. Number 2. Yeah. So so you don't have any other God. So God is not able to forgive sins if not alone God. And they totally right. You know, if we would stay there, we probably ask the same question. You know, in those times, in those conditions, you know, I don't know what I would think, but that's what they in their mind immediately, the fleshing. And immediately having, you know, and this is just astounding, you know. So first of all, he heals, miraculously heals. Number 1, or let's say he is the healer, or he is the someone who, you know, if there is a healer, it means he has ability beyond the human, and it means he's all prophet, or he has a messianic title, which in those times was many messiahs, you know, plenty. You just call yourself Messiah, and you know it means the anointed one. So it means there's something going on, and he's definitely not just you know, if the healing happens. Now the question is, who is he? If he is the healer. So Jesus saying by his words that he is forgiving sins, He's saying, I'm not only healer, I'm a God. And now the dialogue starts. Immediately knowing Jesus in the spirit, pneumati, and this is now, look at this. This is Trinity immediately, yeah? Spirit of Jesus, Jesus' spirit, his spirit, that they are reasoning, their dialogue, they getting dialogue in themselves. He says to them, why these things you dialogue in your hearts?
Mm.
He says, why? A good question, why? Which is easier to say to the paralytic, forgiven to you the sins, or to say, arise, pick up the mat, your bed, and walk? So what do you think is easier? Just being very funny, to say forgiven sins, there's 3 words, right? Forgiven to you, pronoun sins. No, I'm just being funny, huh? And then another one, arise, pick up the mat, krabaton, yours, and walk. This is longer to talk. But, I'm just being silly. What do you think is easier?
Just saying, you're forgiven.
Yeah, Hadi and Jeremiah, do you also think so? Easy to say forgiven. I also think so. It's easy to say forgiven. Let's say I say to, being a Catholic, I say, let's imagine I'm a Catholic and say, yeah, the priest forgave me. It's just like, but who can prove, who can prove that he forgave? If it would be a file somewhere disappeared or got into the rubbish, into the recycle bin, you can't prove it, right?
Yeah.
So, but when you say arise and take up your bed and walk,
And
this
walk.
is another story, if you say so, then, something has to happen. So it's not, but Jesus, when they came, they didn't come for forgiveness, right? They came for healing, but Jesus says, listen, any healing starts with forgiveness. And we don't know.
I think that's an amazing principle already that Christ is illustrating here for many of us, that, I mean, just walking in general, people going through a lot in this world, some of it could be there is things we need to let go inside of us, and then our healing can come. So the forgiveness is like inviting peace into our hearts, and then the body, the physical, can heal easily. So looking at that face
You're
value.
right.
Yeah.
Actually, we just live on this sinful world, and even if we ask forgiveness yesterday, doesn't mean that today any wrong thoughts or ideas never flew through our mind. It doesn't mean that you are stained. They say if the sins, the like how you call it, bad thoughts like a birds, but they can fly through, but if they don't make a nest in your head, that's another story. But yeah, we like, we need cleansing every time, anytime, and ask for forgiveness. It's a normal route to start any prayer. I believe so. Yeah, so he says, walk. Now you can walk after you've been forgiven. And I can you know, when we, you know, I'm now jumping a little bit back because now we're almost an hour. We're just talking about it. Imagine we can talk for the whole hour, for the whole day, you know, talking about the whole second chapter. And, you know, that's why I'm just amazed to study together, because it's never ends. This beauty is just unreachable, like bottom of the sea. Yeah, so when Jesus saw their faith, we normally attribute faith to whom? To this friends. But interesting that John Pauline was talking and there was asked question, you know, in Greek, it doesn't necessarily indicate that who, it says them, you know, and the previous mention is that it's all of them, you know, 4 of them. So I more tend to think that faith of these people is not, it's actually supported by the faith of that person who is lying sick. You know, it's not they are carrying him against his will, you know, but definitely there's some mutual decision and mutual reasoning going on. So, and Greek doesn't say particularly face of 4, or is it face of 5 people? So we leave it for as a thought. So let's just finish at least with this little passage. Oh no, I'm just actually so sad. I have so much to tell you. What heavier you might know, however you might know that authority, the power or authority, exousia, it is something that delegated power. Let's say attorney has a power to seal the documents or do the documents, not just because he has the strength in his body to do that, but he has a delegated authority. So in Greek, we have 4 words for authority or power. And this is a delegated authority to Jesus. That he has that authority, delegated power, Son of Man, to forgive sins on earth. He says to paralytic. Now what Jesus is doing? He says, okay, if you think it's easy to say, let me just say, if you think it's easier to say, forgiven sins, but let me just do both now. I did heal, I can forgive sins. And I have word to preach. So there's 3 actions. So he's not only forgiving sins, he's also healing. And he says to paralytic, since his sins are forgiven to you, I say, arise. Agere, this is beautiful word everywhere. Rise, it means the rise up, you know, oh, get out of the dead as well. And, you know, in English, you'd use the same. When Jesus arose from the dead, this is the rising. Getting from the horizontal position into vertical. Arise, pick up your mat and go to the home, your home. Yeah, he was brought and now he can walk home. So, and he arose immediately, having taken up the mat, he went forth before all, so as far where astoundzomai, it's like astound or shocked. All were shocked, and to glorify the God, saying, this we never saw before, never observed before, never experienced that. Yeah. And he went forth again beside the sea, and all the crowds was coming to him, and he taught them. He taught them. I didn't put it on my presentation, beside the Sea of the Galilee. This is walking beside, this is basalt rocks. Let me just show you. All right, just for us to hear the sound of Galilee. I did show it before, but you can see it, all those pictures and on my presentation there. Yeah, anyway, and now we probably have to get to conclusion. So what we see here, let me get back to this. Yeah. So what we see here in the first introduction of chapter 2 of Mark's, remember Jeremy, he starts his gospel with the words, Jesus Christ, Son of God. Remember this wording? And you, Octavia Hardy, do you remember the wording? First chapter, he introduced Jesus as a Son of God. Now, in every chapter, he would prove it. He is a Son of God. Son can what he can do. He can heal. He can forgive sins. And he can speak the word into existence. And he is, he's just showing it from the action, from life of Christ. That's what he wants to show his contemporaries. Remember, Mark wrote his gospel as we consider first, because it's very short, a very brief, very dynamic gospel. He is already in chapter 2, immediately jumps into the position of Christ's ministry, where Matthew takes long to develop, that idea, and John gives completely different perspectives that Christ is God himself. And Mark wants to say he's a son of God. And interesting, Mark is the Jew. He writes to the Jews, but also diverse diaspora. So he's writing in Rome. We assume, we don't have 100% assurance, but we thinking like that. And it's also for the Greco-Roman world. Remember, Pantheon has hundreds of gods and hundreds of sons of gods. And this is important. So he not only calls him, this is the God, Son of God, how he introduce him from first verse, but then he starts giving proofs, proof after proof after proof after proof. And this is this is the goal of the gospel to do. So by the 16th chapter we arrive, we have this beautiful multi-focus picture of Son of God, who he is, what he did, how he behaved, how he's treating people. Yeah, I'm very sad because I have so much interesting stuff to share with you, but I have 4 minutes, and maybe I will give you my pick out of the whole chapter, because we didn't even get to the middle. So maybe most difficult one, when Jesus is picking up bread, was his just picking up grains, walking on the field. Remember, so that immediately rings us a little lights, bread of the presence. Lehem panim. Lehem panim is called the showbread in sanctuary. Bread of the faces, because the bread is like a face, yeah? So even in Afrikaans words for you, Jeremiah, we have certain valley somewhere that flat stones, and they were called the faces, like a bread. So bread of the faces. And then so he says he says, if David, not being a priest, give the bread, well, he took the bread from the priest, giving his bread of the presence, the changed bread, because assume he's on Sabbath day, because by Sunday, by first day of the week, the second day, it might be already eaten, you know, so he might be running away on Sabbath. So he gives it to his followers to eat, kind of unlawful. But how much so my disciples can eat regular bread? So he's accused in, threshing on Sabbath 39 works that you're not supposed to do. But they forgot about the mercy, and that he haven't been invited for lunch in that village. Nobody thought of him. Yeah. So
is that what happened?
yeah, Sabbath, nobody opened the doors for him. He's hungry, and his disciples are hungry. And this is a big problem, because he would not do it if he would be sitting and talking and, and healing and preaching the word. But he has to walk home, and, everyone is hungry. So, but mercy is forgotten, but the spying is there. So this is when he's discussing it with the rabbis again, he's not talking like, the only one who is asking for mercy. He's not accusing them, listen, nobody invited us. Although, he is as a wanderer preacher, who preaches from town, that's a normal, you invite and give bread and give water to drink at least, but he's talking now, he doesn't even mention that, now with the rabbis, he's talking rabbi way. It's a classic rabbinic argument that called kal vachomer. Kal vachomer from Hebrew means light and heavy. So kal is light, vachomer heavier. So you go from the light to heavier. How it works, it works like, if A is true, let's say, if A is true, how much more is for B is true? So rabbis do it a lot. So he says, if David, not being a priest, is doing it, how much more is for me? But the problem is not that. Problem is his status, his authority, because that's the reason, Of course, and what he says, so Sabbath made for humanity, not humanity for the Sabbath. And it's a lot in rabbinic literature, because then in the 4th century, they would even write it down, because that would be in Talmud written. Sabbath is made for humanity, not humanity for the Sabbath. But Christ is wording it long before Talmud was written. And so he's saying the point of the Sabbath is liberation. Liberation of humanity from everything that might keep you captive. Anything that keeps you back from going forward to God, to be free. So Sabbath is liberation. So, and people want made to serve Sabbath, as we often think, we love Sabbath, and we often say we have to serve. But Sabbath made to liberate us as an act of the service, liberation to be free to serve people and God. So maybe that is, I will finish with this idea, and maybe just on a happy note. Remember, Christ was again accused in being in a connection with Beelzebub. How do you pronounce?
Beelzebub.
Yeah, and this is another joke that you would not know if you don't read language, but I will tell you. So who is Beelzebub? So we understand this, it's a figure, it's a negative figure. But the Beelzebul, remember Baal in the Old Testament? That's him. It's just another name, Baal. This is the Canaanite deity, another name. Baal means Lord. Baal, you know, Beelzebul, if you spell it B-E-E-B-E-L-Z-E-B
B-U-B.
U-L, Beelzebul. So it's a Canaanite deity. Baal is the Lord. Zebul means exalted, exalted Lord. Well, we often all lifted up. So it's their way of Canaanite way to glorify their deity. And he's the highest deity in the Canaanite pantheon. So he's the top one. And interesting enough, it's just absolutely, when you go to 2 King chapter 1, where's the story, where this name comes from, where, if you remember, story of Israel king wanted information from Beelzebul. Remember that he wanted to inquire, but Israelite king. But just go later, 2 King chapter 1. And Elijah, you know, confronts him, you know, that Israel king, and says, there is no king in Israel, so you want to inquire Beelzebul. But there he spells in that first chapter, 2 King, Beelzebul spelled with the B at the end, not L at the end, but B at the end. Yeah, Beelzebub. That's how he spelled it. And the funny part of it is that if you translate that, it's not the Lord who exalted or lifted up, it's the Lord, the Baal as the king, and the Bab in Hebrew is the fly, king of the flies. You know, that is this is the, you know, that's where we got, you know, that movie from. And why they call it, why he does make that joke, there's a huge irony, because remember when you described the sacrifice, you know, burnt offering, so it's a sweet aroma, and they bring it whole, you know, it's the skin that been taken away, but the fat and everything is burnt. But Canaanites, when they would bring sacrifice, which they would also do, they would leave it on the altar to get rotten. They would not burn it. And of course, who would come? Flies and bugs and all those things. So, and that's why they call him King of the Flies. It's just the irony, a big, you know, cynicism, or, you know, just to play it down, saying your king is your Lord is the king of the flies. So, but anyway, this is my I go over the time. Thank you for coming, and I hope you learn some new stuff. I wish to tell you much more, but would not we will not fit into the whole day. But anyway, what I like about doing that we're not restricted to run and, you know, not to ask anything. Yeah, if
Yes, but this has been good, yeah.
Can I ask you, Octavia, to pray at the end? We didn't pray at the beginning, but let's just pray at the end.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you, Elena. Let's pray. And loving Father, thank you, Jehovah, for this moment in time that you have gathered us. And thank you, Jehovah, for these moments in your word where we get to see you and you are revealed to us more and more, Jehovah, and that our hardened hearts can be replaced, oh Lord, with the heart that is full of the Spirit. We continue to seek your presence. We continue to seek your Holy Spirit to guide and bring everything into understanding. We thank you for the gift you have given to Elena, and that she is able to share it with us and make time to be able to help us go deeper into your word. I pray that we continue to love your word, to want to know more, and to seek to hear exactly what what it wants us to do and how it wants us to live, and also that we can be empowered to share with others. And this evening, as we are in our different homes, I pray that you bless all of us and keep us safe and in this weather that is going on in Cape Town, and be with those who do not have the right shelter at this moment. And I pray that you also bless us as we're going to prepare for the Sabbath to hear more and more of your word, and be with us all, for we pray and trust in the mighty name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Octavia. Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you, Hadi, for coming in. Have a blessed evening and tomorrow, and until we meet.
Thank you. Have a good evening as well.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers. Thank you for coming.
Bye.